Well, hello everybody, and welcome to the show. This is TFT, Tinfoil Talk, of course, and we're going to be talking about the phenomena that is the prepper. Pretty interesting. I think this, in a way, could be considered a part two of sorts to last week. Last week we talked more about the situation with the potential of war worldwide, and as well as civil war in the states. But I think it's far more widespread than that, of course, referencing the Boogaloo. But so this is in a way a part two. But today we want to take a lot more time to sit here and talk about what is prepping and maybe what you should do is prepping. Now, me personally, I remember the preppers. For me, I guess it started as survivalists, then it went to militia, and then it went to preppers themselves. So much so that various channels, what the Learning Channel, the Discovery Channel, History, whatever, running all kind of shows on preppers and having CSI talk about preppers and hoarders and all that kind of stuff. So this has been around for a while. We're all quite aware of it, but maybe in this current environment we're seeing, in some ways, the preppers were right, weren't they? And I think that's very fascinating thing because for the most part, most of us have been just laughing at them for decades, I'd say. I think the general concept of being prepared is not a bad idea. But today we're going to be kind of steering away from political things, and we're going to be mainly focusing upon the idea of prepping and what you might want to do, and what you might want to prep. Now, as I had said before, guys, I'm not the most knowledgeable person on this. Although I certainly have a point of view, and I do understand the gun side of it. I'm a gun person, and been since I was a little kid, and so I can offer some of that understanding today. That will be my side of it. The rest of it will be handled by the guys as they come in here. But I think it's fascinating conversation, and it's very. I think it's topical and poignant to what's going on as well, because in a way, we've all become preppers of sort. I mean, even myself here, living in this village, which is kind of ironic. As I wait for Model to come back, I think I heard him sitting down. Um, uh,
I am back.
Oh, well, welcome. Nice to have you in here with us today. Good person for this conversation, I think, actually. The thing with it is, Model. I live in a little village in Japan, which you guys all know, and I'm sure Bullet is Chester. Oh, we never heard that before, Chester. Okay. Um, but it's appropriate to this conversation because we have our own community store of supplies and resources. We have community action groups that are ready to move. We're always going out and cleaning our neighborhoods and taking care of the little village. We have volunteer firemen, which pretty much everyone's a part of. I mean, et cetera, et cetera. So this village is in its way a giant prepper, right? Just naturally so, right? But even then, I've done a little prepping myself. We certainly have some resources and stuff. Now, we did add a little bit of dry goods because of this pandemic a few months ago, but we always have a couple packs and things ready to grab and run out the door in case of earthquake, a serious one. So, in a way, I kind of live a prepper's lifestyle by accident, and kinda. I don't know what to say. But these people, of course, went through war. It was devastating. The 30s, 40s, and of course the 50s as well. Early 50s was just devastating to the population here. So they have learned well that you should be prepared. Now that's where I live. Now most of Japan's not like that, I would say, especially in the cities. But how about where you live? Now, you don't have to give us a specific location, but is your community a community that's prepared or not?
Not at all. Not at all. And I would say most most communities in the states are not prepared at all. Of course, we know the Amish are going to be more prepared.
Oh yeah,
The Mormons are going to be more prepared. Some of the more rural communities are definitely more prepared.
yeah,
Probably Midwest, but when you start getting to the states that have larger cities, and the closer you get to those cities, the more complacency you'll definitely see.
yeah. I imagine, right? So in a way, I'm kind of lucky. To be in the place I am in this way, but of course,
Sure.
flying in from the stratosphere, coming down into join us. mere plebs, with lightning blaring out of his eardrums as he shouts, "Weebs and whiners shall be judged." It is Thundero. Hey, dude.
Yo, happy Easter, everybody.
Happy
Happy Easter.
Easter. Absolutely. A wonderful European ancient culture that it has been appropriated by the Christians. Oh, no, I didn't say that.
Like most of their
Like
holidays.
pretty much all their
Uh,
holidays. Well, it's clever, right? I mean, the Christians and the Muslims, they took different paths, right? The
well,
Christians
they
went in
got that
there.
from the Romans. The
That's
Romans did a
true.
lot of that too.
That is
Snatched
true.
up stuff they liked.
Take what they like, adjust it. It's in a way it's more insidious. Where the Muslims, in some ways they're just more honest, right? Because it's like they come into
Mhm.
your village, they point a gun at your head or a sword at the time, and they say, "Join us or die." That's pretty simple.
It reminds me of the, I think it's Star Trek Deep Space Nine
Uh,
episode where the one guy says a line something to the effect of, the Borg, at least they're honest about what they plan to do. The Federation does it without you even knowing it.
oh,
Kind of that
ooh.
same idea.
Anyway. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not bashing on Christians at all. I actually have come to appreciate Christianity and general good religion quite positively from my point of view. I think it's a very useful thing. I think this whole push of atheism and this Darwinistic approach to kill religion and get away from it is a mistake. I think religion has a place in our in culture and a very important one, actually. So don't misunderstand me. I'm not knocking on Christianity at all. I'm more against the bureaucracy of a thing, not the people. But fair enough. It's Easter, and I got a little Easter story before we get into this, though. It's kind of
Oh,
interesting. Oh, no, no, no! It's not a stripper story. I wouldn't do that for Easter. Be respectful. But
do you wait a bit before do you have one for Easter though?
I
Even
do,
though you
though.
won't
I
tell. I
do.
knew
Yeah,
it.
I do.
Does it end with Lucy pulling the football out in front of Charlie Brown?
No, her name was Lisa, and there was a football, all right. But no.
Oh,
Let me see here. What was I saying? Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. It's completely unrelated. What are you doing, you foul-mouthed person, Thundero? All right. Now,
me? Oh,
yeah. Now, when my kids were young and we living over here in Japan, of course, being in a foreign country with, a foreign culture, more importantly, it was important to me to keep some of the strata of American culture in their life, right? Because I wanted them to have that experience, and part of that is holiday, of course. And so we did do Easter here, even though I'm not a religious person. I still understand the value of Easter, right? And so we did the Easter thing with the kids, with little baskets and the Easter bunny and the little hidden chocolates around the property for them to go find, normal
mhm.
stuff, right? And I guess my daughter had told her friends at school about it, and they were like, "What? That's awesome!" So all of a sudden, my wife came at me with these requests from other parents, saying, "This girl wants to do a sleepover on Easter." I'm like, and she said, my wife's asked me if it's okay, and I was like, "Yeah, sure, sure, why not?" And that grew year after year. I had more and more little girls sleeping in my damn living room. Now, I want to tell you something. It's not easy to wait till a bunch of little girls are asleep and try to tippy toe around baskets and chocolates around the property. It's not easy to do that. Now, I know some of you got a Booster, if he's anywhere near here, is chuckling. A bad Booster. Bad. All right. It's difficult. I mean, you guys have kids. You understand what I mean by this. But I think at one time we must have had, I don't know, 8 kids up in this living in the living room, just all sleeping on futons or covering the whole room. I mean, I literally had to tiptoe around them to get stuff in place, right? But it's a good thing because it was fun. They really enjoyed it, and I was able to kind of give a little bit of Western culture to them that they didn't have, and they thoroughly enjoyed it. But have you guys ever had anything like that happen with you?
Mm-mm. No.
No. All right. Well, it was fun for me. I like kids. I enjoy their wonder and the whole child thing's kind of cool. But I do see you have a bunny here since it is Easter, and I do believe that's Tim Lim's bunny.
Oh, that's the paint shot where I'm actually going through and painting one, and writing down my colors so I know if I have to get a supply of individual colors. I have all the numbers ready and I can source all those at one time so
Yeah,
that they're all the same.
awesome. And that's black hops, right?
It is.
It is. Yeah,
It
that's
is.
cool. That's cool. Yeah, Tim Lim's a nice guy. I really enjoy talking to him on the when he comes on the channel. We've had him on TFT as well, talking about Walt Disney. But he's a really nice fella, and I like his idea. His comic idea is kind of cool. Anyway, all right. So, first thing I want to do here, unless Thundera has something he wants to make some kind of opening statement or something. No? Okay, good. All right. He's ignoring me. He's off talking to the wife probably. All right, here we go. Let me share this screen real quick. Do it like that. All right. Now I do. We got to jump into this and have a fun conversation. But first thing I want to do is I want to come over here and a little bit of sad news. Now I know there's a lot of people passing away right now, particularly older people. There's been many celebrities, and we do try to do the the obituary here, the eulogy. My brain just broke on me. We try to do the obituaries here, and there's too much to keep up with, really. But there's no way I wasn't going to mention this. Now, some of you guys may well know I am a gearhead. For those of you don't, I am. I love cars. I've been around and having fun with cars since I was a little kid, wrenching on things and stuff. Now, I'm not a professional mechanic, but I certainly can maintain things and do various little stuff. But I love cars. And of course, Sir Sterling Moss was a very famous racer, as you see here. He's got 212 wins, a famous British racer. And he died. Here yesterday, I guess, at the age of 90. And I just want to take a little bit of a moment before we get into it to kind of talk a little bit about and show some respect to Mr. Moss. He's an absolutely amazing F1 driver, and he's kind of a pride of Britain in many ways. Now, of course, we have Lewis Hamilton. Of recent years was with at least with the F1, and he's been very successful. Of course, you have Shoemaker as well. He's not British per se, but there's many famous F1s. But this guy is like the quintessential Englishman, right? And that added a lot into him. Of course, with Lewis Hamilton, I mean, he's British, but he's not British per se. He's a young Brit. He doesn't have that whole. I don't know. He's just different. It's very different in the feel and the way. This guy was super English, and I wish they had some more pictures here, but I just wanted to say, condolences to his family and safe journey, sir. Do either one of you guys have any comments about Sir Sterling Moss's passing?
I don't in particular about Sterling Moss, but I had an experience this week. My roommate from college called me up and said our other roommate collapsed in his yard and died. And he was an airline pilot. And so nobody really knows all the details. He's a fairly young guy and a wife and a young daughter. And so that was, we're kind of wondering if, because of his air travel, if he was exposed to some of
Maybe.
this.
Maybe. And that's kind of how this thing works. You kind of fall unconscious. If you listen to several of the people who have survived this ongoing Voldemort, they have described it very clearly. It's as if you're falling through space and you have no feet or legs under you. That's why you see so many people, they just fall down and they stay down, right? It's part of this ongoing thing. But I don't think that he died from the illness. I didn't see that. I think he was just
90.
old. Yeah, 90,
Yeah.
right? But although we've had many who have passed away because of the disease, who are old for sure. I don't think this is one of them, though. At least they might not want to report that. I don't know. It doesn't matter. I just want to show respect to Sterling Moss. I'm sorry, many of you who know who he is, might have thought, well, I thought he was dead already. Well, he wasn't. But anyway, just not really related to what we're doing. It's just safe journeys and all that stuff. Now, before I jump over and get into the main topic of today, let me come check out the chat. We got 14 of you in here. We do appreciate that. Please check out our links we have down below, and go and share out to be part of our things like with the our Facebook group, or FanSpeak. Also, if you want to be on any of these shows, you have any ideas for shows, you want to be an artist on the Drawn and Quartered Ultimate Edition, just hit up my Twitter. And of course, we do appreciate the subscriptions and the likes. I don't know how much they matter anymore at all, but please do. Please do. But the thing that helps us most is hitting that share button and while we're live, so we can have people come over and join us. We do appreciate it. Let me see what we got here. Let's see. We got Roger Heller in here, Mike Dalton. Hey, it's been a while, dude. We got Joe Maroney. We got Ara in here. Always happy to see you guys. We got Atheist here. Not sorry. No, no, it's fine. I'm just saying it's all an agenda, was what my point was. But wool socks, get wool socks. Yeah, that's a fair point. He talked about prepping. We'll get
That's
to
good
that.
advice.
It is
And
good
why
advice.
wool, Chester? Do you know why wool?
Well, because wool is very useful in many ways, because maybe you can use it other than a sock. But I do believe there's a disease. It doesn't carry bacteria or something like that. And there's some other aspect. Damn it. I know wool is important for two reasons. Please
Wool will
tell us.
keep you warm even when it's wet.
Oh, there you go. But isn't there other aspects to it though? Isn't there something else about it's like like a very anti-germ or something like that?
Well, it's a natural, as long as it's natural wool. If it's a blend, then it's going to be less uh, effective at those properties. But yeah, it's actual animal hair, so it's not going to absorb a lot of those um, bacteria and
Maybe.
dirt. It's easier to keep clean, and
Yeah. Yeah, and I know wool is really useful. I saw a Kickstarter a year or so ago for a pair for shoes that they were making of wool, and they breathe really well. Like you said, they keep you warm no matter the situation. Yeah, wool's pretty handy, dude. The Muslims said keep the circumcision. Yeah, so do the Christians, and then we decided to take it back because Mr. Kellogg didn't like sex. You don't believe me? Go read about it. Yeah, and I mean the cereal Kellogg guy. Yeah. He was very anti-sex of all the raging 20 stuff that was going on, and he's the one who brought circumcision back to the Christian world. Yep, yep. John Dillard's here. Uh-oh. He says, Joe, you're going to hell for sure. All right, cool. Well, socks. What am I? Lorenzo de Medici? All right, fine. The Modern Survivalist is a God channel. Okay. Let me see here. God tier channel. I don't know what they're talking about. Aroma says Chester Jackson passing out baskets and Jesus juice. Okay. True, true, true. It's interesting how much reaction you get when you talk about Christian stuff. It's just will endorsed by Dan Marino. God, poor Dan Marino. This guy Chester sounds like he hates cars. I love cars. Shut up. Sterling Morris was a Satanist and a polygamist and environmentalist. Well, the last one's probably true. Elronimus says, a gearhead with a rice burner. That's true. This Chester guy sounds like a commie. It's true though, dude. I do have a rice burner. I got a fast one too, baby. But anyway, enough is enough. So welcome everyone. Glad to have you here. And I'm going to do my little thing that I usually normally do, and just kind of set the premise. And today, mainly these guys are going to be covering a lot of this. So let me just kind of get the premise out here. Now, preppers, for those of you who don't know, are people who uh, are worried about the end of the world. They're worried about the apocalypse. They're worried about some kind of disaster, kind of like what we're dealing with now. And they take a lot of measures to make sure that they will survive the situation. Now, here you see an image I have up of a food store. Now, when I was a kid, this is the interesting thing about the conversation. When I was a child, this wasn't weird. Everybody did this, right? Everyone had a pantry, usually underground pantry, at least where I lived, that was full of dry goods and canned goods. It was normal. And we've gotten away from that, and I do think there's a lot in the modern zeitgeist, and it might well be a commercial thing or a political thing. We could have been pushed that way. It could have just been a natural thing. I don't want to get into conspiracy theories on this show regarding that, but this used to be normal, right?
Back home, everybody had a root cellar
Yeah,
until, going into the 80s when the boomers, started building their houses and they all started doing away with it. But everybody's grandparents had a root cellar.
that's right. I mean, my grandma, she'd make her own jams and jelly. She'd make her own candles. She would make her own everything, towels, blankets. They had their own victory garden, and that's another thing we might talk about a little bit here. I don't know, but the victory garden came out in Britain, of course, in during the war, and it was about just to have food in your belly because it was tight, right? And I think we did it in America to a point as well. But they the old generation. This is a normal thing. This is just common sense. And today we have gotten around away from it, even to the point that we kind of point and laugh at people like this. And I think that's ironic in a way. But
It has become a pejorative. A
yeah,
prepper is a nut, you know.
yeah, that's true. Yeah, it's very true. Now, I have a couple things that I'm going to talk about guns and some other stuff, but I don't want to get in the way of this conversation. I think I've kind of introduced the situation quite clearly, so let's let these guys kind of take the lead, and I'll kind of try to follow their lead in this way. So, you guys go ahead. I know Model's raring, so we'll let him go, and then we'll let Thundero pop in or whatever he wants to do. So go ahead, dude.
Well, first, what I wanted to do with the panel was just as an exercise, start with $20, going to the store as someone who's just starting. What would you buy with that $20? And let's just kind of set some ground rules. You have sugar, or you have pepper, you have salt. You don't have to worry about water, so you don't have to buy a case of bottled water. But just as a kind of an exercise, and then the second part of that would be week two. What would you go buy? Now, a lot of people have the financial means to go out and do much more than 20, but a lot of people don't, A lot of people spend $30, $40 a week at the grocery store, and that extra $20 is a lot for some people. So I just wanted to kind of do that as an exercise. Um, and a little bit of I have a kind of a prepper mind from growing up. I grew up in a
Mhm.
very inhospitable place. I grew up about an hour from the Canadian border in what is usually the coldest place in the United States in the winter. That's up in the Iron Belt in Minnesota, up
Mhm.
in the mining belt.
Mhm.
And so there were a lot of things that I saw 60, 80 below wind chill winters up there,
Sure.
just brutal, to where 10 minutes outside you're dead.
Oh yeah.
So there were a lot of things that were instilled in us growing up, like you don't go out to the store in your slippers and your pajamas. You
No.
always kept a pair of warm boots in the trunk. Certain things like that, because if your car broke down and you were 10 miles in between uh, other people, you're gonna die. So the people up in those areas, when you start getting into some of those northern states, are very hardy people, uh, and they live a different lifestyle. So
They do.
our winter up there was a good 7 months of winter. So
No, that's true. Yeah.
even north of there into Canada, they didn't even have it as bad as us because of the way the jet streams would come down. It would loop underneath them and hit us.
Yeah. No.
But
Being from New England, we certainly had very similar mindsets, although not as extreme as that. But I certainly grew up with that kind of thinking. Yeah.
from a personal experience, I dumped a dirt bike. I kicked a rock up into the swing arm on a dirt bike, and it basically put me up on the front wheel at about 45 degrees. And then when it came down, my heel dug into the ground. My ankle just exploded, and I didn't walk for almost a year. And
Wow.
I had been a prepper before that. I kind of started casually after 9/11, when things started to look a little weird, and some of the more extreme measures that were being taken and some of the freedoms and the things
Yep.
with the gun control and stuff like that. And so I started, but after I had surgery, it was so nice to have that supply. And I had cases of water and stuff like that. If you have time to do this, you can do a little bit here, a little bit there. I've over the years, I've bought a food dehydrator and, those things that over time you can start picking up. So for a lot of people now that may not have even 3 days worth of supplies, it's kind of overwhelming to start from nothing when you really look at the things you wish you had, and it's thousands and thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
But you brought up the top of the guns, and I'm absolutely a firm believer. If you don't have a gun, that should be number one priority. But the thing is not everyone can get them, depending on your state. You may not be able to own certain types. You may not be able to own one if you've had any kind of run-ins with the law,
Yeah.
or psychiatric issues, or any rehab and stuff like that. A lot of states won't let you have one.
Yeah,
So,
which is unconstitutional, but that's
well,
another conversation.
and most of the gun laws are
They
unconstitutional.
are. Any
You
gun
know,
law technically is
yeah,
unconstitutional. But I think there's a certain amount of moderation and restriction that we're all kind of willing to accept. But the simple fact is they're all illegal. I think I'm going to get to that in a second. I'll get to that a little bit later. But let's answer your question that you asked. I think it's a good question. If you have $20, you go to the store. What are you going to buy? Thundera, you want to take a bite at that?
Depends what store I go to. Um, if I just go to a regular grocery store, $20. If I'm trying to get things that are going to last for a very long period of time, I'm going to look for canned goods. You can get a ton of that with $20.
Mhm.
I'm going to look for things like actual rice, not minute rice, that you can store for a while.
Yeah.
You could get frozen stuff if you know you're going to have access to a freezer. If you don't, then I wouldn't bother with it. Um, but yeah, I would stick to things that you know will last, and of course, things you want to eat. If you're, say the worst happens and no one can get to food from anywhere, you don't want to be stuck eating nonsense you hate. Like nobody wants that. It's going to make your already stressful situation more stressful
True.
because you're not going to want to take in the calories you need. So you need things with a
sure.
lot.
Have you
You need
have
things
you
with a
ever
lot of caloric value, basically,
have you ever heard of
and that's
something
actually
called
easy to figure
appetite
out.
fatigue?
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's fair
So
point.
you want to get things with high caloric value. It's actually really easy to figure out, thanks to laws in this country that make it so any food they sell, they have to put nutritional value on there. So you
That's
get
true.
things that will out of nutritional value for the calories you're taking, but you're also going to need a lot of calories because we're assuming this is a worst case scenario. You might have to defend yourself. You're going to want to make sure you have the energy to do that. High protein foods are good for that. You want carbs as well, obviously, just because they're easy and they're cheap, and your body will turn them into energy when it needs to. Too many, obviously, you'll crash, but that's probably not a problem you're going to have. So, but yeah, that's what I'd look for: high caloric value. That's the most
Mm.
important when you're trying to survive. Find foods that are very rich in it. There's a lot that are surprisingly rich in it that you probably wouldn't think of, and there's some that are pointless, like celery. Don't eat celery. I mean, you can eat celery if you have plenty of food, but if you're just trying to live off celery, you're going to starve to death. So don't do
Yeah,
it.
no, that's fair. That's fair.
But yeah, so just stuff like that. That's what I'd look for. It would really would depend on where I'm at, what store I'm at, and the state of you know what the situation is, the why I'm starting. So like right now, it might be hard to find some of that stuff.
Yeah,
So you
let's
have to
forget
get
about all that. You go to the store, it's a good stock store, $20, it's your first time prepping.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? We're not going to complicate it with these
true.
various factors.
things
Well,
that you'll find in every store: dehydrated foods of some description and canned foods.
there
If
you
you
go.
don't know how to can yourself and don't have the ability to learn for whatever reason, it's actually very easy. Then that's fine. Just it's provided for you. There's plenty of it at every store. Probably go right now. There's still plenty of it because people don't buy it, and it'll last a long time. If you are planning on getting any kind of meat, even some dehydrated foods and meats, you're going to want something to cook that with, just because you don't want to eat that straight. So if they have it, get like good cooking lard in a big
Ooh,
can. That stuff
yeah,
will last a long time.
that's very good.
Uh,
Yeah.
and I know
Okay,
for a
so
fact.
what's your purchase? Let's count your $20 down. What are you gonna
Well, let's
get?
see. If we get, it depends on what we got going. Let's say average price for like canned vegetables, right? Canned food, vegetables that are going to last. Try to get the driest ones you can, but get them. They'll last a long time as long as you don't open the can, um, or leave it out in the heat. So you can get, let's say you spend $10, you can easily get 10 of whatever you want.
Sure,
Peas,
that's a
carrots,
good
whatever
rule
you
of thumb.
want.
And
You can
and
easily
to
get
add
that.
to that, about the canned food, I would highly suggest that if you're going to start doing this, you don't buy the cheapest store brand because the cans are
Mhm.
crap. They
Yep,
rupture.
and
Buy
they
Del
can.
Monte, buy a
Yeah,
good brand of food.
and the aluminum in those cans, if it's the cheap stuff, can even eventually start to bleed into the food, and you don't want to eat
Ew.
that because aluminum is poison.
Hmm.
Don't do that.
Yeah, if you ever
Um,
taste metal in a canned food when you open it, if you can taste a metallic taste, throw it away because it will make you sick.
Immediately. Yeah, or if you eat too much of it, it'll kill you. So don't do that. But yes, definitely try and you want to get the highest grade stuff that you can when you're getting stuff that you want to last, because that's one of the things that separates it, is the amount of preservative, or whether it's containers. That's a good rule of thumb. If you're not going to take it out and put it in your own sealing system, whatever that might be, vacuum, like if say you learn how to do all that, it's not hard. Um, then you want to get the best possible containers you can, and just do that anyway because it's probably going to taste better.
Yeah. Well, that's
So say
interesting.
we're at about $10 with canned foods. Get dry goods. I wouldn't get anything that you don't know how to make yet. I would get things that are easy. Get things that are like rice. Rice is really easy. Anybody can make rice. It'll last a long time if you keep it like a cracker in it. A couple crackers. It'll keep moisture from getting in it and ruining it. Get crackers that last forever, and they're very high in caloric intake because they're basically just pure like carbs and starch. So get those. Um, I if you said you don't have to worry about salt, right now we're probably at about, if you get a big bag of rice, it depends on how big the bags are at your local store, but you probably easily get a 5 pounder, no problem. That'll last you a long time if you know how to make it and mix it with other things.
Sure.
Especially if you're getting veggies. You can stir fry and eat for a month off of no money if you know what you're doing. I get bored of it, but it's better than starving.
Hmm.
So I would get that kind of stuff if I was going there first. In fact, I just recently when this first started happening. My wife and I went there, and that's what we bought. We bought a bunch of stuff like that. Spent a couple extra. We spent more than $20, but spent a little bit more money. And
Yeah, Jones. I think it is $20 is pretty tight, but I get Model's point on it. But that's cool. Me personally, Model, I would get a little bit of rice. I get some flour. I get some salt. I'd make hardtack is what I would do. I would get some honey. I might get a little bit of seed. I might pick up a can of some fruit or two, and I get some soap.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
That's what I'd get.
Soap's good to have. Soap's definitely, especially get bar soap. Don't get
Yeah,
don't get get the bar. The bar will last forever. It doesn't. It's not like it's going to spoil really. Um, and it's extremely efficient. It's one of the most efficient things humanity's ever invented. Actually, is soap.
yeah, yeah,
So it's good to have. It's good because you never know what's going to happen. First, you want to be clean anyway because it's healthier. But two, you never know. What if you get a big cut and you have to keep it clean? You're going to need that soap to do it. So
mhm.
it's a great.
Well,
That's actually a great idea. So
yeah, a
Well,
little
and
bit
I
of soap.
learned
Yeah,
on Ren and Stimpy you can pretend it's an ice cream bar as
that's
well.
true. That is true. But when I was younger, I used to do SCA stuff, Society of Creative Anachronisms. You know those Ren fairs, and I like the fighting thing. It's kind of like football with sticks. It's awesome. hockey. But I used to really enjoy that, and of course, we'd spend the whole weekend in a medieval way, right? So we didn't have electricity; it's just tent living. We had these fancy kind of old style tents and stuff. But my point being is, learning how to make hardtack is very simple. It doesn't take much. And if you have hardtack, that stuff will last for decades, I think. It's kind of outrageous how long that stuff will last. And you can take the hardtack and you could just, it's like a rock, right? But you could just throw it on the edge of the fire. You could put it on a stone or a heated stone or whatever. Get it a little heated up. It softens at a touch. And that is ready to go food. So hardtack is certainly something I've done before. And just for the fun of it, and if in a situation, I would definitely be prepared to make a bunch of hardtack. Hey, do you guys have any? Is that an appropriate thinking, or is it not?
It's not the route I would go.
Uh huh.
Definitely not. So one thing, and this, this is just as an exercise because I thought it'd be interesting.
Sure.
But I see a lot of people immediately say, "Well, just go buy a bunch of ramen," and I've noticed everybody's really heavy. If you go and buy 5 cases of ramen and that's your supplies, you're going to get very sick. If you eat just rice, you're going to get very sick. If and then pasta. Pasta is not a good storage food because it has eggs and oil in it, and that stuff goes rancid. So
Okay. Yeah, that's
you
true.
definitely don't want to fill your pantry up with just carbs.
No,
So
that makes sense.
with my $20, I think my first trip to the grocery store, I would buy, I would probably spend $10 on rice, probably $5 on dried beans, and then the other 5 on oatmeal.
Interesting. Oh,
Yeah,
So
oatmeal.
oatmeal's a
either
good one.
either like a big can of the Quaker oats, the big tall can, like a silo. That's probably what I would do for my first trip because I'm thinking, well, next week when I go and spend my other 20, I've got some different things planned. But and there are some other things that you're going to want to do because you're going to get very sick of those foods. Um, you'll want to look at one of the reasons why rice is so valuable is that it's a staple food, but it's also very versatile. So you can make desserts with it, you can make bread with it, you can put soy sauce on it and eat it. You can put brown sugar and cinnamon on it and eat it. You could brew with it if you want. You can make rice wine.
Oh
You
yeah.
could make vinegar with it.
Yep.
So it's a very important food. The thing about it though, especially the enriched long grain white that we have, it's not as nutritious.
No,
So
unfortunately, we do have a better type of rice here than you
mhm.
guys in the West. I don't know why they bleach it out so much, but rice is
It's
also,
what's expected.
I guess so. Yeah, that's fair. But rice is
That's
also
why
per.
that's why the eggs are so white. It's because people expect those
Yeah, I
those
saw
very
Little
white
House on the
eggs.
Prairie, and they had an episode about that.
Yeah.
But no, for per 1 tablespoon of rice per based upon any other food, it is the most high energy thing. It's actually the
Mhm.
best superfood we have is rice. Yeah, that's true. But I wasn't joking about Little House on the Prairie either. They did have an episode talking about white versus brown eggs, and
No,
Mrs.
that John
Ingalls was
just said
getting
that
cheated.
that John just said that big can of Quaker Oats is $15. It's not.
Yeah. Well, let me catch up with the chat real quick because they have opinions on this. Someone says baking soda,
Sure.
trash bags. JIT is killing us. I don't know what the hell that is. My grandmother dug out her root cellar with a big spoon. All right, Dave, you're good, a badass grandma. Grew up in the mountain. Grew up in Montana. Sorry. We had full pantry, snow, and fires. Yeah. Right. I mean, when I grew up, we had the same thing. Pasta and sauce. Interesting. In California, I go to the store with 20 bucks. I walk out with 1 pack of cigarettes and a 2 liter of Diet Coke. Wow, dude. Uh, Jeez. Sheldon, that's why you got to take cold showers and ice baths. Keep you strong, baby. All right. Winter of '88 sucks. Well, dude, the winter of '78 sucked more.
Oh
Um,
yeah. I remember that as a kid.
Yeah, dude. As a kid, it was fun as hell, but it wasn't for your dad. Guarantee that, dude. That poor guy was shoveling snow every a day after day. I mean, I remember my dad having to go up in the. We had one of those crawlway attics, and he had to crawl out the. You know how in the you have the little vent circle hole. He actually had to crawl out that to get out to dig us out because the house was buried up to that level, right?
Yeah, we had a
Freaking
picture
78, man.
window blown out of the house, and I remember my parents wrapping me up in a blanket like a
Burrito.
yeah, like a burrito, and carrying me over to the neighbor's house.
Yeah.
I remember that very
Yeah.
distinctly because of that and that window blown out. Yeah, it was a
Yeah.
vicious winter.
It was bad. Now we had storm windows and stuff like storm shutters, so we didn't have any of that problem. But yeah, 78 was bad. Let's see here. Thunder is a fool. With $20, you can get an aluminum baseball bat. It's true, John. It is true. Brown and quinoa rice. I don't know what that is, Roger.
Quinoa,
Oh,
quinoa.
quinoa. Oh, I've heard of that before. I thought it was a fruit. Interesting. Um,
It's a
John's
grain.
I guess so. I don't really know anything about it. But let's see here. Food grand buckets are $4 at Lowe's. Okay, I don't know what that is.
He's right though, and you have to make sure, and it's best to get the white ones, and you want to look at the bottom for that. You know how they do the little recycle symbol with the arrows? You want number 2 plastic if you're going to put food in it.
Oh yeah, there you go. Hey, nice piece of information. Number two. All right. 5 pounds of rice is $6. 5 pounds of beans is $5. Pasta is super light and dirt cheap. Seal the bucket, and you get 5 gallons of food for under $20. Good point, John. The
Yeah,
Mexicans know something
and
about
that
that,
is
huh?
sustaining. It's not going to be the most exciting, but you've got carbs, you've got high protein, and you've got iron. And those things will, if you don't get enough iron, you're going to get anemic, and it won't matter what you eat. You're going to feel absolutely awful, no energy, and
Yeah.
sick. So you got to make sure that you're getting certain things.
Yeah, no, that's why I added the honey because that's very useful in that situation. Joe Maroney makes a comment I've heard several times over the past couple of weeks that I think is very interesting. You can't buy seeds, Chester, not essentials in Vermont. Well, it sounds like it's not essential everywhere, which is very bizarre because I
It is
know,
bizarre.
because model going here in Japan when you go to the store like to the Home Wide or something like that from time to time, they pass out seeds, dude. They like give
Well,
them
in
to
the
you
country
free.
is this is springtime. Everyone in the country is transitioning into planting their seedlings and
Yeah,
getting gardens ready.
yeah.
It's a very odd thing to do, that you wouldn't take those seed racks and roll them into the grocery part of the store. It's very suspicious, actually.
It
And
is weird. Yeah,
just to add to what Joe said about the brown rice is sustaining. A lot of people don't know though that you need to soak brown rice overnight, kind of like beans,
yeah. No,
because
you do. That's
if
true.
you don't soak it, it doesn't open up and you won't digest and get all the nutrients in it. So
Yeah,
you need to soak your brown rice.
yeah. And I'm just going through catching up with the chat here. Thundero, feel free to jump in anytime you want, dude. Pemmican, my 18th century reenactment training pays off, right, dude? That's absolutely true, Dave. That's what I was talking about with the hardtack. It is. I mean, it's fair thing to know. I appreciate my grandmother and grandfather a lot now as I get older because that was a generation that knew how to get stuff done, man. And they taught me all kind of things that I never thought I'd need, but they're perfect for any kind of situation like this. It's pretty impressive. Chester, the big can of Quaker Oats is $15. Okay, for me, the rest of the my money would be spent on flaming hot Cheetos, extreme hot with lemon. What? Damn it! That's not the right answer. We have chickens, so get our eggs from a source. Yeah, no, having a couple of chickens is pretty easy to do. Uh,
Now, Chester, have you ever eaten pemmican?
I have. I've also had hardtack. I've also had many of those old 18th, 17th, 18th centuries type of foods because we had like I said, I did SCA both in the South and in the North. I loved it. But inside the SCA, there were a lot of Civil War reenactors. and that's the kind of thing they do, right? So I kind of got a little bit of both, by accident, I guess. But I have had it, yeah.
Now, I find pemmican to be a nightmare food. That I would have to be very, very hungry to eat pemmican. I find it vile
Yeah, well, it's just
because,
preserved meat, really.
well, with berries, it
Yeah,
has
yeah,
berries in it as
yeah.
well. And to me, putting berries on a piece of meat is just absolutely disgusting.
Well, if you take your hardtack and you take a little bit of your pemmican, which you probably got in a jar or something like that, and you put it on top like a spread, it's kind of nice, dude.
Oh God, it's gonna be awful, Chester.
I don't mind it at all. But a lot of those old 17th, 18th century stuff, I mean, I don't know, but I would imagine there is stuff on the internet that teaches you how to make that stuff. I mean, those guys
Oh,
didn't have
absolutely.
refrigerators, right? So they knew what they were
Yeah.
doing.
Hey, rather than hardtack, even tortillas don't require yeast. Get a simple tortilla recipe. All you need is oil and flour, and a couple
Yeah,
of I think it's like four ingredients to make them. And
sure. Yeah, that's fine. I just mentioned the hardtack because you need flour, salt. You're finished,
yeah,
right?
but it's there's no need to eat like you're trapped in the Rockies in 1850.
I was just trying to think survivalist is all. And,
Sure.
and I don't mind hardtack at all. And do keep in mind that up until modern times, I'd say World War I, World War II for sure. This was what kept our army alive, right? Our military alive was hardtack, right? 78. Let me see. There's a couple comments here. I was 3 or 4 years old in '78, and I remember the snow. Yeah, it was bad, dude. Brown eggs are local eggs, and local eggs are fresh. New England egg commercial. True. Why
Around
never?
here, 2012, 2013 was actually worse than 78 for us.
Oh, was it really? Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Goodness
more
gracious.
snow, colder, everything.
Ooh, that's not good,
Right
dude.
when I decided I was going to try and sell cars for the first time, that was fun.
Hey, I sold cars before too. I found out I don't like being. I'm good at being a salesman, but I don't like it.
Yeah, I don't like it either.
No, I don't like it. But there is a question from Sheldon Martin. I think you should answer though. One of you guys. Why number two plastic? I know nothing about plastics.
Because it can leach petroleum distillates and other things into the food if it's not a food grade plastic. The FDA has classified different types of plastics,
Hmm.
and they're usually stamped in numbers on the container. So on buckets, it's on the bottom. You'll see like a number 2 or a number 4, and you want to try to get the number 2s. Like, I don't think, at Home Depot they have the Homer buckets. I don't think those are number 2 buckets,
Hmm.
but you can get them at like Walmart and Lowe's, and usually they are white because they don't have any dyes or anything in them.
Sure. Well, that's good to know. And I know that we learned a little bit about plastic buckets from Breaking Bad. Hmm. Let's see here. Ray Thule has a point that I'd like your guys' opinion on. Splurge on garlic powder, seasoning, salt, etc., etc. It'll make the survival food less monotonous. That's a fair point, maybe.
Yeah, and that's going to be one of my later weeks, most definitely.
Hmm.
Week 1, I'm going to just make sure I can eat.
That's
I,
true.
I I won't get too sick of my food in the first week or two, but I want to try to get 2 weeks worth of food right off the bat in that first. But he's right.
Yeah.
You're gonna want to make sure you have basic spices, maybe a few condiments.
Yeah, awesome. Lady Celtic Moon is here. Hello, nice to see you. Bob said the same thing you said about plastic. Number two, Eric Hawkins. What you nerds talking about tonight? You forgot the R. It's grammatically incorrect, Eric. Quaker Oats. It's the right thing to do and a tasty way to do it. Wilford Brimley, prepper. Football, shoulder pads,
You
death
still got
toll,
the
muscle
beatus
car.
though.
He does have diabetes, yeah. Muscle car, dog, and quinoa. All right, rock on, dude. I don't really know quinoa. Sounds like a sounds like a Spanish Hispanic thing. Chester, have you ever ate pemmican? Model 2020. Yeah, I have. Have you guys ever tried it? It's just a preserved meat. Let's see here. My brother would love this
It's
chat.
sweet and it's gross.
I know. I like it. Uh, Preppers. Is it colonoscopy time for you old timers? Oh, shut up, Nick. Chester, realistically, all you need is 3 months of prep. That's interesting. We should get into that conversation actually. If you survive all the other obstacles of the end of the world, then you'll probably make it. Most people will die within the first month. No, let me just, there's a couple of little chat. Let me catch real quick. I'm going to come back to that. The Army uses Tabasco sauce to break up the food monotony. Makes sense. Any kind of
Hmm.
spices that store for a long time. Number two as well, come back next winter, so prepare early. I hate English teachers. Shut up, Eric. Evan Hotep, did I hear something about a fetus? No, you didn't. The YouTube channel Townsend is focused on colonial era reenactment. They got a lot of food preservations, foraging recipes, and similar vids. There you go. Rock on, dude. Why are they doing this? Oh, that's right, because you used the word Nazi. Don't forget, Chester is a professional grammar Nazi. Yes, yes, yes. That's right. Curious. All right, let's go back to John's point here. Uh, Time frame. He's saying realistically, all you need is 3 months. What do you guys think about that?
It really depends on the situation. Um, if the situation is, something like we're going through now, but worse, an actual, real, genuine crisis, not just one that they're calling a crisis, um, it would be it would be much different because you would hopefully have prepared for a long-term situation. Now, 3 months is probably enough to get through most crises. That's probably more than enough. Like, let's say tomorrow this thing mutates and it starts killing people instantaneously, or something. It becomes real nasty, a real nasty thing.
Well, we have a third
Uh,
strain romping around right now. You understand that? We have SL, and then we
Yep.
have a new one, right?
COVID-20 is out now.
Yeah.
uh, so let's say that becomes, like the Black Death level of destructive. Uh, you want to be able. 3 months is probably a good enough time where it's going to burn out wherever you're at, most likely. So that's a good number. 3 months is a good number. I would say do at least a year. Have it there, even if you never get into it. If things get bad enough, you're eventually going to have to move anyway, unless you have a whole lot of land you can farm or something on.
Hmm.
You're going to be forced to get out there in it eventually, one way or another. So, what do you do in that situation? Well, that's a whole nother topic as far as, like, how to build communities and such, in that environment, or how to, stay away from basically.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I'd say 3 months is a good starting number. I would go for longer if you can. I would shoot for it even if you never hit it, just because I think you want as much cushion as possible. You don't want to be in a situation where you don't have enough. You'd much rather be in a situation where you have way too much.
Yeah.
So
And, and it
that's
is it is fair thing you say, Thundera, with this overhyped situation we got going on. I'm not saying there ain't nothing because it is something,
yeah.
but it has been overhyped for sure. And I just last night had to kind of bring the wife down, as it were, because she's got herself all knotted up over the thing, and I'm like, just relax, man. But I mean, I had to kind of manage that situation a little bit last night. Just gotten to
Mhm.
that point, and I'm wondering how many other people have to do it now. I'm a bit lucky, I guess, because I don't know. I just don't care about such things. I don't let myself get riled up, I guess. So I have zero stress over this situation. But my wife does. So I had to, kind of calm her down and explain, this, and that, and the other. I'm just wondering how many people are having to deal with this, whether personally or not. It's a fair point, you know?
I think in
Yeah.
general, I think three months is a good place to start for a number of reasons. 90 days is enough to cycle seeds if you can get them. Uh,
Sure. That's right.
but you also have to remember you have to do that for each member of your family, and possibly, if there are people who, if they were to knock on your door, you absolutely would not turn them away, because a couple of people will turn your preps into nothing. Your 3 months goes to 1 month. So You have to be aware of that. The other
That's
thing
fair.
too is you have to make a decision, like you were talking about, whether you're going to displace or you're going to stay put, because now all of a sudden you've got to figure out how to load up and haul your year's worth of food for 3 or 4 people. You're going to need a big vehicle. So
Yeah.
that's something else. And then the another thing I always tell people, don't tell everybody in your neighborhood that you're all prepped and you're prepared for
Oh
the end of
God.
the world,
Yeah.
and posting pictures online and stuff. I see people doing it all the time. And it's so foolish to do, because then when everybody's starving, they're coming to your house
Yeah.
Yep. If you're the
and they're going
arbiter,
to get you out of your house.
That's right. Which
And
is
I
a
don't care if you
segue
have
for.
a gun. They're gonna get you out of they're gonna Molotov your house. You're coming out of your house.
Oh yeah, no, no, that's a fair point, but it is a fair segue to my section. So let me go ahead and grab a hold of that, if I will. All right, so here we go. Now, guns. Now, I know when we talk about guns, some people don't like the conversation. Some people get upset about it, but which I don't really understand why. It's a tool. It's a great human creation that is a versatile tool for us to use in for many things, not only self-protection but hunting, and it's really not it's unnecessary for you to be worried about guns. But I sat here and I thought about what can I actually contribute to this conversation, and guns is something I know. I grew up with guns. I was taught by my family when I was little, and to understand that a lot of these families around the world who teach their kids about guns, this is a great thing. Because alongside teaching you about how to use a gun, they teach you how to respect the gun, right? Um, and this is essential part of learning how to use a gun and being respectful of it and being respectful of what you use it for as well. But anyway, I thought about what guns I would have if I were in a situation where I wanted to literally prep. So this is what I came up with. Now, first and foremost, above everything else, get a pump shotgun, right? This is your best bet for house defense, for home defense. It also is very versatile in any type of situation. Now, me personally, I would probably have a 12 gauge pump, which is going to give me six. If I take out the plug, I can get eight shells in there, probably, depending on the model. It doesn't really matter. You can get a Mossberg or Browning. You can get whatever you want. These things are pretty simple type of thing. You're going to be good to go with whatever you have as far as a shotgun is concerned. Now, the reason why I say pump is very simple. Don't get the over-unders or side-by-sides because they don't carry enough shells. Right? These carry more. The pump action is very easy to maintain and repair if you have to. It's very simple. It's not a very complicated device at all. And of course, the shotgun is also very useful in home defense because it doesn't penetrate or go very far. And that's very useful. You don't want to kill your neighbor's dog or your neighbor for that matter. But now I said I would get a 12 gauge, but I think we need to think about that a little bit because if you're a woman uh, or a small guy or even a guy who doesn't know guns, going something with like a 16 or maybe even a 20 gauge would might be a better choice. 20 gauge at close range will deal with whatever's in frickin' front of you, dude. It will. Even though it's mainly used for bird hunting, it will deal with it at close range for sure. The reason I say that is because I don't know how many of you have shot a 12 gauge, but I've certainly gone out to the range and I've gone hunting with shotguns. I've done quite a bit. And you let off, 20, 30, 40 rounds of a shotgun, you're black and blue on the shoulder for sure. And I'm a big old stocky fella, right? If you're a female, it might just put you on the ground, dude. I mean, you can shoot it, but it's a bit extreme. So think about the power of the gun that you're using as well.
And if
For
you buy one of those little pistol grip shotguns like that, your hand is gonna be meat
Yeah, I would say
after a
not to get that. I would say I just saw this picture and just brought it up. I would go with the one on the top. to be honest with you. Especially because you can hold your six shells in the barrel, and you got six right on the stock. It's there you go. You're kind of good to go, easy carry, and you're going. But I
Yep.
really do, I think, suggest more 20 gauge overall, and it's also useful for bird hunting if you find yourself in a situation you need that. It's not going to be the greatest deer hunting thing unless you can get real close. I think a shotgun is first thing you have. If you only have one choice, have a shotgun, right? It's just very
I agree with
versatile.
you on that.
Yeah,
Mossberg 500 or Remington 870, you
yeah,
can't go wrong.
sure. They're
But
cheap.
I'm definitely a 12 gauge guy all the way, just because when you start getting into those mixing calibers, you're going to find more 12 gauge than anything,
That's
especially
true,
for scrounging.
and that's part of the conversation, which I'm going to continue through the various guns I'm going to talk
And
about.
you're
Yeah,
not going to be shooting hundreds of rounds of
no.
12 gauge. You're probably not going to shoot it even once a day. It's
Yeah,
for
but you know
emergency.
what I mean, dude. If you take some smaller person, particularly a woman, and they put that on their shoulder and they don't know exactly what they're doing, they're going to put their ass on the ground and they might even break their shoulder, dude. I mean, 12 gauge is
Yeah,
no joke.
I'm not.
It's
I'm
no
not.
joke.
If you have a gun, you need to get out and you need to shoot
That's
your
true.
gun. You need to learn how to handle your. Women aren't that fragile for a 12 gauge. They can
Uh,
handle it. If you're a man that can't handle a 12 gauge, you should probably do some push-ups.
Maybe. Yeah,
You
that's
know,
fair. But I'm just saying, just to understand there is kick on it. Yeah, before I move on to the next range of weapons, do you have any point to make, Thundera?
Nope, nope, nope. You guys
Cool.
are right.
All right. Next thing I want to no, this is first thing. You should have this first. If you have space and you have money for more, well then my second choice is this right here. And I'm talking about in addition. Right now, the AR-15, we know this little black rifle gets a lot of conversation. The AR-15 is, of course, where the M16 model came out of. This is basically a 22 a long rifle on steroids, but it's very effective. These things are simply made, they're hardy, they're robust, they're very accurate, and you can put a lot of bullets downrange if you have to. I almost wanted to put AR-15 first, but I didn't for various reasons. But one of the real good reasons of the AR-15, and the same thing that Model had said with the shotgun, the 12 gauge in particular, is finding ammunition if you need to. These are everywhere. These they even have the standard UN round as well. It's just the sensible choice. It's not if I was going to carry my own, I'd probably carry a Winchester 3030 or me personally. But for the average person, AR-15 is perfect choice. It has it can be configured in many different ways. It's very safe and user-friendly gun. It's super accurate, and you can do a lot with this. You can go deer hunting with this rifle, rabbit hunting for sure, small game no problem. You got to be a good shot, but even foul. The AR-15 is kind of a must, I would think. What do you guys think?
It
it,
depends
it
on what
wouldn't be my number two. It wouldn't be mine if I had no guns. It wouldn't be my number two.
it
Okay.
depends on what you're doing. If you are in a place where you aren't going to be secure, you're going to need medium range weaponry. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
If you're in a place where you are fairly secure, probably not. Just because of there's better options. If you have no other option, then yeah,
I'm
absolutely.
talking in general. Yeah. Like I said, I carry a Winchester or a 3030 or something like that is what I would carry. For the average person, I just think the AR-15 is very, very, it's just so versatile. And like I said, the ammunition is freaking everywhere, dude. There are billions of rounds just laying around. And the AR-15 is very useful for that. It is medium range. It's a fair point. It's a medium power, but it's just so useful. It's very compact, and depending on your loadout, it can be even more compact. You can make pistol versions of this, although that's illegal in most states for some reason. I just think the AR-15 is for the average person. very valuable thing to have.
Say the AR is like you said, yeah, for the average person, it's also really, really, really good for women
Yes,
because it's not very big, doesn't have a lot of kick,
hardly.
basically.
Yeah,
Yeah. So it's and women are ridiculously good shots anyway. So you give them a light rifle, they're a little bit of time and they'll be better than you most likely at shooting. Um, so yeah, it's very good for women. It's good for for men too, of course. But I just personally, I think if you have the shotgun, it just really depends what you're doing. If you're turtling, if you're just building up, trying to stay in one area, shotgun's probably more than enough.
yeah,
If you're out, you have to move. AR-15 is probably it's definitely a better option if
yeah,
you're in most places, just because of the range and the versatility of it. Plus, it's very reliable. It's one of the most
yeah,
reliable weapons ever made,
yeah,
as far as a weapons frame. So
yeah.
yeah, it's a really good choice. Absolutely. I just think there's alternatives
There
if
are.
you're a little better. What's the word? Better educated
Yeah, no,
in
no, I agree. But if you're
when to
better
use.
educated, you don't need our advice,
It's
right?
true. It's a good point.
Me, I'd have a lever action because it's very easy to maintain. It can hold a lot of shells, and you can. It's very you could just carry and go. I mean, that's I mean that's what won the West. They talk about the Colt winning the West. No, it's friggin' it's all those lever action rifles that are just
Oh yeah,
so useful.
and
Um,
they're ridiculously easy. They don't. I mean, they don't really break.
yeah,
There's a reason we used them for so long.
yeah,
It was really until the cartridge rifles started to actually, not suck, that we completely phased them out.
yeah,
Because we had cartridge rifles for ever, but they were terrible. It was garbage weaponry, and they weren't very good in the field. But the lever actions, yeah, if you get your hands on a nice lever action with like a 45, whoo,
oh my,
you'll be
yeah.
tearing things apart.
Yeah, and those aren't they don't have the greatest super long reach where
No.
something like a 30-06 or something like that's going to have. But the lever action guns do carry a that and that's a fair point. And this kind of goes back to the overall conversations about survivalism, right? Prepping. Those people in the 19th century, their day to day, especially in the West, was survival. It was their life, right? And the reason why those Winchesters and those and not just the Springfields and various other ones like that, the lever actions were so popular is because you could take the shell out of your pistol and put it in your rifle or vice versa. It was
Hmm.
very handy, right?
Well, they're
But the
also very similar to revolvers in that they're, they're as good as you're ever going to get as far as reliability. They're
yeah,
super reliable. They're gonna work most unless something crazy happens. That thing is gonna work. It can get dirty. It's gonna work just like a revolver. Like it's just that's one of the reasons why revolvers were so popular in
yeah,
those days too,
yeah.
because you could just rely on it. You pull it, it fires every time. Bam,
Oh,
bam, no
sure.
problem.
I mean, I can
It's
drop a lever action, just drop it apart for cleaning and maintenance stuff in what, couple minutes. The AR-15 is only a few minutes longer, really. It's not very hard. It is more complicated though. Anyway, so there's category one. This is what you need right here, top
Yeah,
one,
you can field
right?
strip an AR-15 with only the round
Yeah,
itself.
that's true.
It's made to be field stripped
That is
with the
true.
round.
Yeah. But this top one is the first. If you have the money in the space, AR-15 is certainly handy, and you carry a lot of ammunition as well. That's another thing to keep in mind in case you're hunkered down or you're moving or you're hunting or whatever. It's very versatile. And the last category, of course, is the handgun. For me, this is the last category. It's the last thing you need, to be honest with you. This is more of a luxury, I think. But if you are going to get a handgun, you should get one that is kind of following the same type of thinking I've been talking about here. Here I have my two current modern choices: the Glock 19 Gen 9 and the 6R P320. And of course, this is the M17 version. You see, I have a picture with a coyote coloring on it. But these two guns, I would go with the Glock, I think, although the six, I don't know. Military guys probably go the 6 hour, to be honest with you. But I think the Glock is more just user friendly. But either way, these are amazingly well made guns. They're not horribly expensive. It's not like a Beretta or something like that, which is kind of overpriced.
The
Um, uh,
SIGs are much more expensive than the Glocks.
they are, they are. That's why the Glock is first. But it's very user friendly. They're very easy. They work. They just work. right? You don't get many snags. Even if you do, they're very easy to clear the chamber, and they're highly accurate. And once again, these are 9 millimeters, so it's a more of a high velocity bullet more than a knocking down power. And if you're somehow concerned about that, then go with a 45 or a 357 or something like that, I guess. And me personally, I'd probably carry a lever, 45 combination between the two if that was me, just for efficiency's sake. But the reason why I'm suggesting 9 millimeter as well. There's a lot of shots in the clip, and also you can find ammunition everywhere, right? So this would be my suggestion. But the thing is, you don't really need a handgun, I don't think. I mean, it's like the last choice. You're not looking at. We're not talking about combat here. We're talking about self-defense for people coming to steal your shit that you prepped, right? I
Mm.
don't. Me personally, I don't think you need a handgun, but of course, it had to be on the list. So, what do you guys think about that?
Well, I'm doing 12 gauge, like you say, first, and then I'm going to make sure I have birdshot, double odd buck, and slugs.
Yep.
So
Yep.
that takes care of self defense and hunting.
Mhm.
Number two, I'm going with a handgun. Uh, if you are familiar with guns, I'd go for a full frame auto, none of the compacts, none of the little small. Go
No.
for a full frame auto.
Yeah.
9, I'm going with the 45 if I can swing it. I'm going with the 45. Um, if you're not familiar with guns or you're not enthusiastic about going out and learning how to shoot it, learn how to clean it, how it works, like I myself, I have the know-how to make parts, pins, and
You do for sure. Yeah.
selectors and the different sears and stuff like that out of just sheets of steel. So I'm not worried about having to replace parts. Once you get into an auto like that, there are things that break on those. So
Yeah. Yeah.
if you don't want to be engaged in having to really learn it, and for females in particular, a lot of females have a hard time manipulating a slide on a full frame
That's
auto.
that is
Go with
very
the
true,
revolver.
dude. That is very
Go
true.
with the
Yeah.
revolver. Um, Nothing smaller than a 38 plus P. Don't just get a regular 38 special. Get a 38 that is plus P. A lot of times they can be chambered in 357 as well.
Hmm. Yeah. No, I,
And
I agree with
there's
that.
very
That hundred
little to
percent.
go wrong on a revolver.
But I mean, revolver, of course, might be a more simpler choice. But for me personally, I just don't think a handgun is really essential purchasing anyway. I just don't. In this conversation, I mean, if we're in like a combat mode, like we were talking last week, sure. But that's not what we're talking about today. So that's
Yeah, well, we're talking about just prepping, right?
yeah,
So 12 gauge first, some type of handgun, and then number three, either the AR-15 or the AK-47.
yeah.
Mm.
AK is also super reliable, but the problem with the AK is that it's like so incredibly inaccurate, dude.
Hmm.
I mean, those things, it's just like, you've got to fire 10 rounds just to hit the side of the barn, right? They're,
Nah, I don't know about that.
nah, I don't think they're very, I've
It's a
fired them
30
several
caliber.
times. I don't like them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, in full auto they're terrible, or in
Oh, yeah,
burst
yeah,
mode they're
sure.
terrible because the barrel flexes. But single shot, no, they're as accurate as anything.
Okay. Either way,
I own them. I mean, they
yeah, no,
they
no.
are.
I've fired plenty of AK-47s. I'm not a fan. I understand you could take and beat them on the side of a tank for half an hour and they'll still fire. I get that. But and they're extremely reliable. I mean, there are examples of them being found buried under the ground, people digging them out and putting a round in and shooting them. I mean, freaking AK-47. That's why they're the Kalashnikovs are so popular. But I just think the AR-15 is a better package.
I do too. And my brother's an AK guy. I'm an AR guy. So
Yeah,
I would go with the AR first.
yeah. Well, Thunder, you've been kind of quiet on the gun conversation. You have any opinion?
It's no. The reason why is because people, they often take their guns. They take them to heart, so they get very attached to the very specific type of firearm that they like.
Sure.
So I don't really chime in on this conversation often. But what I would say is get what you like to fire. Get something that's reliable and you feel comfortable with firing in an instant. Right? If it's something you feel that's clunky or heavy, or you don't like the weight of it, you don't like the weight of the trigger, you don't like this, you don't like that, you don't like the sound of it. I mean, there's a million different reasons why someone would or would not like a gun. They don't like the way it feels when they fire it. Some people like, that hard kick. Some people don't. It just depends. But you need to know that. You need to know what you like. And it's not hard to figure out. Just go shoot a couple different calibers, a couple different styles.
Yeah.
You'll figure it out real quick. Um, so figure that out. Figure out what you think you'll like. And if you don't know, get the lowest caliber with the highest stopping power. I would recommend just a revolver if you're going for handguns, just because they're so easy, they're so reliable. You pull the trigger, it fires, it's done, done, done,
Mhm.
and you don't have to worry about. I mean, you still have to clean it, but you don't have to worry about too much other than that. You don't even really have to clean them that often, to be honest.
Well,
Uh,
yeah, especially modern weapons. Yeah, that's true.
yeah. So I would, if you don't know, revolvers are dirt cheap. You can get one real cheap. Get a nice little 38 or something. It's not going to kill you to shoot it, and just go practice with it. See how it feels. See how you like it. If it doesn't, when you're at the gun shop buying the gun, if you tell the guy, hey, I'm kind of just getting this, to practice with. I'm just getting into it, whatever. They'll help you. They'll always help you. You'll never find anybody more helpful than people at gun shops. It's incredible, actually.
Yeah.
And they'll make sure that you don't buy something. Now, somebody might try and upsell you, but if you're smart and understand that's what they're doing, you won't fall for it. But most of the time, they won't do that because they want you to be safe. They want you to come back. They know that once you buy one, you're probably going to buy more. So they
Sure.
want you to do that from them. Um, so yeah, if you have questions and you're just not comfortable just trying it out, going to a range and trying it, go to the range and ask the guys there. They'll show you. Someone will offer classes. You can take one. You probably don't even have to though. A lot of times at ranges, you can just ask the guys there.
Oh yeah, gun people are
It's
very friendly and helpful, actually. Yeah.
extremely like
Yeah.
it's the armed society is a polite society. Well, it's because the people who are armed generally are very polite people, largely, and because they understand, there's a reason why they're these people, and they're easy to talk to. They're high in openness. They're not the closed-minded bigots that the media makes you think they are. They'll talk to you about anything, and they'll love to talk to you about guns.
Yeah, and keep in mind another point about the range. You should definitely go to range and get it if you get a gun, whether you ever need it or not. You should. That's been made by everybody here. But keep in mind one of the first things you should check about when you get your gun and go to the range is ask someone directly, and they'll be very nice and helpful. What is gun etiquette? Because there are certain things you can do at the range that will piss everybody off instantly, right?
Oh yeah.
So please ask that question. It's not, no one's going to get upset. No one's going to laugh at you. They're going to be totally cool. Just ask the
And
question.
if you've never been to one before and you don't have a buddy to go with, if you go to the range, I promise you, most likely the guys there will show you any questions you have if you ask them on it. If you ask them, if you're not a jerk about it, right? You just
Mhm.
ask them a simple question, be like, "Hey, I've never really done this before. Can you show me some pointers or something?" I guarantee you, if there's a bunch of guys there, one of them will help you
Yeah,
because they'd
absolutely.
rather you do this safely than do it at all. Not do it at don't do it at all if you're not going to do it safely. They'll teach you things like trigger discipline. They'll teach you just basic fundamentals of guns that you may not have learned because some states don't require you to learn that stuff before you can buy it. Most of them don't, in fact, which is fine. I think that's perfectly reasonable. That's your job. Um, but you want to learn these things because these basic fundamentals are once you got them, you never forget them,
Yeah.
and you need them. If you're in a situation where it's life or death, they've shown statistically over and over and over again, concealed carry people who are gun people, are far more uh, effective than even most police officers
Oh yeah.
because they have that like comfortability with themselves and with their weapon. That's something you just learn over time, which is why I want to stress: get something you like. Get something you like to shoot.
Yeah.
Doesn't have to be the most powerful. Doesn't have to be the biggest or the nastiest. It's not. A lot of people think it's like a dick measuring contest. It's not. Get the gun you're good with and you like to shoot, and you'll be way better at it than a gun you don't.
Well, there you go.
So
Uh,
what are the four commandments of gun safety in order? Does everybody know them?
gee, I don't know. Are they the same for everyone?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Don't put your gun to your head. Don't point the gun at the other people. Keep your finger across the carriage of the gun, not on the damn trigger. and keep the damn thing pointed down. Make
Number
sure
one is
that.
always treat every gun like it's loaded.
Oh, okay,
Mhm.
all right. That's why I just said that.
These are the four commandments of gun safety in order, and
Okay.
they're universal. These are taught in every gun safety course, every military, every police uh, department. Every gun is always loaded. Number
Yep.
two, keep your finger off the trigger until you're ready to fire.
Yep.
Till the moment you're ready to fire. Number three, don't sweep the muzzle at anything you're not willing to destroy.
Hmm.
And that's the one people screw up all the time.
Yes.
They
Yes.
mess that up all the time. They like do appendix carry or something, and the muzzle's pointed at their crotch or their femoral artery. I see that people do that all the time. It's ridiculous. And number four is be aware of your target and what's beyond. Because if it's hero time and you shoot the bad guy, but then you also hit a 4-year-old in the background, your hero time is going to be cut pretty short.
That's right. Yeah. And I
Same with
think.
Did you
target
also
shooting.
say? Did you also say treat every gun like a loaded weapon?
Yeah. The
Number
first thing
that's
he
number
said.
one.
First
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I must not have been paying attention. I was.
I would even go
Every-
further. I wouldn't just say treat it. I would say it is. Even
Every
if it's
gun is
not,
always loaded. That's
until
number
you
one.
confirmed it's not loaded, that gun's loaded as far as you're concerned.
Yeah. No. Absolutely true.
And
But
the point being that you continue to treat it always as if it's loaded, even if it's not. And those four things they're put into place in basic gun safety to help you to avoid ever having an accident.
Yeah.
So even if you have a mechanical failure, you have a sear that breaks or just a disconnector that breaks. If you're following those four rules, even if that firearm discharges, you will not injure yourself or anyone else.
Yeah, no, these are good points, and this is another reason why you should go to the range. Let me come back over here. The chat has got a lot to say, so let me try to catch up here. Jiminy Cricket says this TFT actually has some practical information. Well, good. That was kind of the point. Let's see. They're talking about I think what he called Townsend. I'll go check it out. Sounds like something I'd like. Rodimus says, no, we're not going to eat our neighbors, El Rodimus. A year's worth of preps is a hell of a lot of stuff. That is a lot of stuff, dude. You're right. Let's see here. And having more than enough would help when things get really bad for trading. That's fair. If situation lasts longer than 3 months, you'll need bullets more than food, possibly. Evan Hotep, how about these certificates of immunity they want to do? Well, China does the same thing. It sounds very tyrannical to me. I have to I have to rein in my wife twice daily. Jesus, dude. They talk about the certificates. Let's see here. Da 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 da. Bug out last ditch. Yeah, sure. Preppers don't talk. Are you sure? Pretty sure they do. If Walking Dead has taught us anything, over prepping just makes you a target for looters and the governor and Negan. That's true. Let's see. The first rule of prepping is don't. Oh, I get it. Don't talk about prepping. I get it. But Batman doesn't use guns. True. I'll hang a sign in front of my compound that clearly states all trespassers will be molested. It's nice, John. Ray Thulu
Classic.
says,
The
right.
English teacher, everybody.
Yeah. Lots of veggies can be grown from cut ends like green onions, celeries, potatoes. That's very true, dude. If you live under one of the retarded governments who think seeds aren't essential, there are workarounds. Well, dude, I have to tell you, it's very bizarre that they wouldn't be. Like one of the things Trump did was he came out and he said, guns are essentials, gunshots can stay open. Of course, Washington, California, and other places responded and then just shut them down, right? Because we're going to get rid of Trump. All right. Let's see here. Ray Thulu says shotguns for close quarter defense. Do not underestimate the utility of a Ruger 10.22 for putting small game in your belly. It's quiet and the ammo is dirt cheap. That's true. A 22 is not a
Yep.
bad choice at all, dude.
The
Yeah,
1022 has been around for a long time. It's one of the best guns that's ever been made.
sure.
Um,
Yeah.
and it comes with all kinds of modifications on it. You can do all kinds of fun things.
You can.
You can get subsonic rounds that don't make a lot of noise, and they can take down game. And if you want to make a suppressor, they get pretty quiet. So
They can, and that's why I mentioned that's why I referenced the AR-15 because basically it's just the Super 22, right? Is what it is,
Yeah.
and it's just the amount of ammunition and replaceable parts, et cetera, have overtaken the classic 22. Now, when I was a kid, I got my first 22. What was I, 12? Maybe. 12 years old, right? So, growing up, a lot of us had 22s. We learned how to shoot on a 22. They're a great, great gun for sure.
Yeah.
Neighbor's dog. Very good. Curious.
If
Uh,
you want knockdown power, you want to do an AR-10, an AK-47, Mauser, 8 millimeter,
sure.
something like that,
Yeah, that's
and
fair.
30-06, and those are things that you can knock down big game or people coming at you.
Yeah, no, that is true. I'll have my 38 special locked and loaded. All right, Roger. If you're John Dillard, a 12 gauge will knock you out. Well, it's rather brutal here. Right now, we are advertising all our clients to put everything they've got into canned food and shotguns. Brian Gremlin, 1990. Uh, Interesting, Nick.
You know,
Uh,
a lot of what is going on right now, Chester, is suspiciously like a dry run
it
for a
feels
lot of
that
these
way if you,
agencies.
yeah,
And I think people should also take advantage of it and treat it as a dry run for themselves,
mm, yeah.
as far as some of this stuff.
Yeah, well, no, and it sounds kind of conspiracy theory, which is perfect for this show, but I can't say that I disagree, model. Yeah.
The rest of this year is going to be a shit show. I hate to say it, but we're going to go into summer with this corona thing, and then we're immediately going to go out into a presidential election. This
Oh,
entire year is going to be a mess.
I think most of the rest of this year is going to be about getting revenge on China, because the whole world is pretty pissed off at them, and then they keep doing nonsense to try to get out from under it. So I think as a lot of focus is going to be moved toward China. Someone has to have the finger pointed at them. So why not point the finger at the people who are, well,
We're not
actually
we're
guilty?
not going to punish the Chinese people,
Well, no,
though.
the
It's the
CCP,
Chinese
of course.
government.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the CCP. Yeah, of course. Sheldon
Well, the
Martin.
But
problem
I wanted to
is
address something real quick. Somebody's talking about the year supply of food now. Again, not everybody's able to do that, but if you are, the thing is like you cannot eat like you normally eat with a year supply of food. Now they're thinking that's a lot of space. Um, I have I have a year supply of food. It doesn't take up a ridiculous amount of space because what you're doing is you're planning for a rationed year supply of food. You're not talking about eating like you normally do because if you do, you'll be out of food in 4 months.
Yeah, and you should be
sure.
supplementing anyway.
Yeah.
But you do need to, if you're thinking that you're going to be out hunting and marching through the woods, or you're going to be digging your garden, you're going to have to make sure you have food to accommodate that effort.
Oh
That's
yeah.
true.
I mean,
Yeah.
back in the day when we'd have to put stores in for the winter, literally. And we're talking like 1800s. This was a normal thing. They had
Yep,
storage
that's
of
right.
food so that you would live through the winter, live through the hard times, especially in the northern climes where there was no long growing season. And this stuff happened on the regular. People act like this is so weird. It's not. You're
Nope.
just not
No,
used to it.
people would get real lean in the winter too. By the time
Yeah.
spring came, they'd be pretty lean.
And it's because they didn't eat like crazy. They had their portion size were smaller. They ate what they needed, not what they wanted.
Well, no, that's right. That is very, very true. And even coming up into the middle and later half of the 20th century, a lot of us were raised with that similar thinking, right? Like myself. But let me continue with the chat here. Raythul says something many people forget to consider in a survival situation is how loud guns are. If the poop really hits the fan, you really want something quiet. Well, I understand that, and subsonic rounds certainly, and understand that a suppressor can reduce the sound, but that's not what they're for. Okay, but I don't know that I would care so much about that, but fair enough, I suppose.
If you're firing supersonic rounds, that suppressor is going to do very little because you're still going to have the crack.
Yeah, and
Well, I mean, there are some workarounds if you want to stay silent. Learn how to use a bow. Of
that's
course,
true.
it's once you lose all your arrow. I mean, you can't have a huge stock of arrows. However, one thing you can have is a nice little bucket full of ball bearings, larger ball bearings, and you can use a wrist rocket, and they do some big time damage if you're good
Sure
at it.
do.
They do, yeah. Well, actually, I got myself a really nice compound bone just sitting in the closet right over here.
Oh,
So they are a valid because I used to prefer. I kind of did hunting since I was little, and when I got a little older, I was like bow hunting was more challenging. It was more fun. So they are bows are useful. Use 20 gauge if you're not able to handle a 12 gauge. Yep, that's right. 38 AR-15. Got two of those. Bow and arrows are quiet, true. Lady Celtic Moon's ready for action. Yes, she is. She's got two guns. Let me see here. The Patriot's Choice gun of choice. That's right. If you live near a stream, learn how to make fish fences or pot traps. Yep, yep,
that's a really good idea.
yep.
Super good idea. That's something you learn in like Boy Scouts, though. So yeah.
That's true.
Anyway,
Yeah, and if you want to have you know, don't go out and build a suppressor until you know the laws. There are very specific laws on
Oh God,
suppressors,
yeah.
but you can get everything you need to build a suppressor at the hardware store and just have it on the shelf. You can have all the individual items, just don't put it together until you know the laws because
yeah,
it's
they're not really hard to put together.
no,
No, they're
it's a
not.
simple object, but
Yeah.
it is serious big time in the butt prison
Yeah,
if you
it's a
don't do it
class
right.
A. Is it class A felony? I can't remember.
Yeah,
I
no,
believe so. Yeah, and it's a federal firearms violation, which means
Yeah,
you will lose your right to own firearms.
right. And it doesn't make any sense, but there it is. Yeah, unfortunately, I don't really think you need suppressors, guys. Just use the gun. Eric says, "What about the Beretta M1, M10, M107? Sorry, I needed
it's a good
something
gun.
to pick people up off my roof. Yeah, dude. Sure, if you can afford it. Yeah.
It's a
Because
good gun.
understand Beretta is not cheap, dude. Jiminy's talk about the 50 cal from Beretta. Yeah. If you guys know
Yeah,
guns,
it's
you'll
great.
get whatever you want. I'm just trying to make a suggestion
Well,
for
if
easy
you want to keep,
non-gun people.
if you want some downrange, long range stuff, you can shell out for a Barrett. But I mean, it's a little overkill.
$6 a round.
Yeah.
Oh, he's talking about a Barrett, not a Beretta. Did I make a mistake? Maybe I did.
Yeah,
Uh,
fair.
yeah.
Yeah. Sorry. Let's see. Chester, can you do the rifleman thing?
One's
Of course
Colt
I
and one's
can, dude. I grew up on the rifleman. You don't think I did 1,000 times? Because it's cool, dude. You guys never did the rifleman thing?
I love this.
We had a rifle range in the basement of our middle school.
Yeah, no, we used
Shot
You're
to.
22
lucky, man. Really?
They used to.
Yep.
Yeah, we had
We did
shooting in Boy
archery and
Scouts and stuff like
22s
that. Yeah.
in the basement of middle school.
I wanted to go to your middle school. My middle school sucked.
Oh, these potatoes are gross. Anyway,
Yeah, up in northern Minnesota where I grew up, it was different. I mean, we had gun safety in school.
Sure.
We
Yeah,
had
so do we.
we had gun safety from Boy Scouts and stuff like that. They didn't teach us gun safety in school. So
Mhm. Yeah. Eric says not a fan of the SIG, but I do like Glock. Well, Glock's a very reliable gun. It's very affordable. SIG is certainly a lot more expensive, but I'm not a military person, but our military guys love the SIG. They're all about the
SIG is
SIG.
okay.
So there must
I
be
like
a
the
reason.
CZ though. I'm a big fan of the CZ right now. They're a lot of fun to
The
shoot.
75 is they're real nice.
Yeah,
Yeah.
cool. There you go. Let's see here. Is this a gun stream? Nope. Just part of the conversation, Ken. Don't worry. Model will be leading the charge, and we'll come save your ass. Don't you worry about it.
Or to go get Cat.
Yeah, we got to go
This
get
is like,
Cat.
is this a gun stream? I can't have guns. I'm sorry.
Let me see here.
I shouldn't be a dick.
No, I guess not. My Parkinson's necessitates the revolver. Well, all right then get what you need. You don't need guns. If crap hits the fan, lay low for 2 weeks while the gun people all kill each other themselves in a panic. Maybe. The problem is with that kind of thinking, and we hear a lot of that coming out of the kind of typical lefty type of progressive thinking, Rodimus. The thing is, if you ever met a gun person, they don't panic.
No, that's not the way it's going to go down.
Yeah.
Definitely not.
We do not panic. That's the whole point. We've trained ourselves to understand a gun and respect the gun, where there is no panicking going on from gun people. Now, all these people that are rushing out during the Voldemort here and buying guns, maybe, but gun people, no.
Well, you know what's funny is all the stories about the anti-gun people now who are all out trying to get guns and finding out it's
Right,
not as easy as they've
right.
been, railing on for years. And the gun store owners are talking about how many of these people come in and start cussing them out, and
Yeah, no, yeah,
that's
they're
pretty.
getting frustrated. The gun shop owners. I do watch a lot of gun streams. Mainly, I prefer the watching stuff about smithing. Gunsmithing, making and
Mhm.
Mm.
repairing. But just in the watching of that, you come across a lot of these gun shop owners are really frustrated. Actually, let's see here. Dave, that's a great idea, dude. He says, "Oh snap, a gun in comic book shop? Yeah, dude, that's a great idea." Oh, goodness gracious. Okay, so Eric says he's got to keep himself a year's supply of Taco Bell. All right, I've kind of caught up with the chat best I can. I'm done. You guys go ahead.
On the food subject, one important thing I think that anyone who is like going to start to try to prep, whether it's 3 months, 6 months, a year, make sure you buy food that you like to eat, because you have to cycle that food. You can't just go out and spend $1,000 on food and stick it in a bucket and then leave it for 5 years, 10 years, and expect it's going to be good. Your canned
No.
goods have to be cycled. So that's why you need to buy things you like to eat.
Yeah. Well, you know what they do here in this village, because they do cycle through stuff. Because we do have storage stuff, mainly rice and some general essentials. Well, what they'll do is they'll take when they do the rotation, they'll take the rice out and they'll just make a whole bunch of sake,
Hmm.
right?
Absolutely.
And then they just kind of give it out and they put in these little bottles that says Uno's on it and stuff. Anyway, it's pretty cool. It's free sake. But one thing I wanted to talk about, if you guys wouldn't mind, because I know we have at least one Mormon in here. Could you talk a little bit about the Mormon food service, please?
What do you want to know?
Well, explain it to the folks. What
Well,
is it? Yeah.
um, we have what we call the welfare department of the church, and that literally is for the welfare of the church and for people who come asking nicely. We keep what is called the bishop's storehouse, and across the country in different places, the church has facilities where they have a place where they store food and clothing and other essentials. And that's what happens. You go to a local bishop and you ask. Now, I'm going to be honest. If you want to go to a local bishop and demand, especially in a time of trouble, you're going to find that Mormons are also fairly regimented. Um, and we won't brook any insolence or belligerence. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
We're very nice people as long as you're nice.
Well, don't be a jerk in general, I think is kind of a rule we should all follow, right?
Well, I
But I
know
mean,
our local cannery here. You can contact them. They do periodic group cannings during the year. You can get on a list and prepay, and then you can also volunteer to go and help that day.
yep, yep.
Yeah.
And this isn't just members that will go can. It's anybody who wants to volunteer, and then you probably can get some free stuff out of it too.
So explain the
Um,
canning process. Expand. What is it you're talking about
well,
for those who have no
well, here,
clue, which
at
is
least
most of us?
in Utah, we have like orchards and different farms and things, and all that stuff gets funneled into like the church cannery. And so we go do what is considered service for the church, and you go can for a little bit. And that gives storage to the bishop's storehouse. And they also do things like it's called Deseret. The brand, quote unquote, the generic brand is Deseret, which comes from our. If you ever look on the Utah flag and you see the honeybee, that's a reference to the state of Deseret or honeybee, which comes from the Book of Mormon. And that's you can look it up. But we have the Deseret um, brand that when you get from the Bishop Storehouse, that'll be on it. And there's a lot of food there. We have a whole bunch of granaries all across the Wasatch Front. I don't know what they do in other places, but here in Utah, we're stocked. I don't know if we could take care of every last person, but I mean, most people around here are pretty cooperative, and those who aren't would find it rough going.
Well, if you get those number 10 cans with the
Yeah.
freeze-dried fruits, that stuff will last
Yep.
20 years or more.
Yeah, you get number 10 cans full of like peaches and pears, and like they have apples that are put in syrup. So that, and actually they're pretty good. I cracked one open one time, and I was expecting not to like the apples, just like a pear or peach. They were actually pretty good. They have other things like oranges that come from California and Florida. They have canned meats. They have chicken and beef and other stuff like that. They have I can't remember, like they have a way to preserve bacon, so you can get bacon too. They have cereals and things that they are freeze dried and shrunk down, and those things last for quite a while. They also have stuff that's is more perishable that you would give the people in need. You know, they have they have dried milk. They have uh, potatoes, you know, flaked and stuff, and that stuff is all together. A bunch of grains, all that stuff. So, and plus they
Powdered
have food.
eggs, powdered milk,
Powdered,
stuff
yep,
like that's a
hmm,
luxury, to have.
yep.
Yeah.
All of that stuff is stuff that the church does on a regular basis. I don't know what other churches do, but our church is a little different in our mindset. Goes back a long time from
Hmm.
getting kicked
Well,
from pillar to post. So,
I
And
know.
you do need special equipment to
Yeah.
freeze dry powdered eggs. You can't do that in a dehydrator. You
nope.
need something that will spray it into and mist it into a chamber and dry it immediately. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I do know that where I come from, they had the Mennonites do some very similar things, right? I
I
think they're a
would,
little
yeah.
bit more old school than the Mormons. Mormons
The,
have certainly
is
embraced
is
modern
it
technology.
Mennonites or Mennonites? Is it Mennonites?
Oh, whatever. The M
Mennonite,
peoples
Becomes
that are there,
Mennonite.
I
Yeah.
call them the wannabe Amish.
they're
Yeah,
really
they're the
tiny.
Mennonites. Yeah, the
They're really
Mennonites.
tiny Mennonites. They're the Midianites.
Oh, we're giving Hester a hard time.
Oh, that's fine. But there are quite a bit of them where I come from, and
Yeah.
they're in this type of situation we're talking about. They are prepared,
Hmm.
most certainly. But I
I
think it's
would say
cool.
that the Amish are probably like that too, because they haven't left the old 1800s way of kind of living.
Mm,
You know, they have preserves and things like that. I mean, I mean, this is the type of thing that we've just kind of let go. The
yeah.
system has supplied, whereas people uh, have not experienced this kind of feeling for what, and almost 100 years now. So I mean, it's like the Great Depression, I would think.
Hmm. Well,
Yeah, and now's the time. Take some time and go online and find out what the growing cycles are for some specific vegetables. Find out how to make a food. This is all stuff you can do, but
yeah.
now is the time to do it when you've got your internet. Just print out pages, get a 3-ring binder, and start collecting some things that you think are going to be useful.
No,
Yep.
I do have a question for you guys because I don't know the answer to this. Here in this village, we have a deep ground artesian well, right? Sitting underneath the mountain here, Montegoe, and it's beautifully fresh, just awesome water. So we
That's
are
nice.
not connected to the greater Psyche area water system, right? We have our own system, right? And it's clean and protected, and it's ours. But from what I understand, there's many places in America where they don't let you dig wells anymore.
Correct.
And why is that? Where is the possible logic behind that?
The counties have claimed water rights. They have claimed ownership to the water tables.
So even the water under your own property is no longer yours. Oh,
Correct. The water going from springs through your property, the water coming off your roof in some states.
It depends on in my state, the county. If you're down south because of certain reasons, there's so little water because of it's arid, very arid. They usually allow you one water right per um, however much acreage you have.
yeah, but
Uh,
isn't homesteading still an actual law in America?
It's very much discouraged.
Yeah, so what? I mean, it's still a law, right?
Depends on
Yeah,
the state. Depends where
yeah,
you go.
really, it does. It depends on your location.
Now, see, that's tyrannical, in my opinion. How
I agree.
I really don't like this whole idea of them controlling water rights. I don't
You know,
like the idea of property
the federal
tax. I can't
government though.
stand, dude.
The
well, I
federal
mean,
government has gone into these places and under using like the Corps of Engineers and stuff like that, they've completely taken over reservoirs and rivers it's the overreach is out of control. We're really at a dangerous point in this country.
Yeah.
Well, at least in my state, we guard our water zealously.
As you
Not
should.
to,
Yeah.
because, I mean, there more than once, California has tried to kind of leverage our water rights, the state's water rights, how much water we're allotted. And we have done a lot in the state. This is not a federal thing. It's a state thing where we built our own reservoirs, and we've done a lot of that, right? If you look around Utah, we put in a bunch of them. It's because we don't have a lot of water. And so we've conserved it. Water, the division is called the Water Conservancy of Utah. Okay. California has on numerous occasions tried to basically take that allotment from, like, especially the Colorado River, and basically yank it. And we've said no, sorry. And the same has gone for not only us, but also Arizona and Nevada.
Mhm.
And they've tried to do that.
Yeah, it's very worrying, dude, about the whole water thing. That is well, most certainly overreach. There are a couple comments here in the chat I want to kind of catch up with. Aramis people who say they don't panic are the first to kill themselves under pressure. Pride goes before the fall. Yeah. I'm not talking about walking around saying that I don't panic. I'm saying that people who are disciplined in gun training are not panickers, is what I meant. Mike says, get five FIFO racks for cans. What's that?
I'm not sure what he's referring to.
Oh, okay, cool. Mike
I'm
seems
not.
to have a lot of information on this stuff. We should have had Mike in here today.
We
Let's
could
see.
look it up, I guess.
Yeah, FIFO, FIFO racks for canning, for cans. Interesting. And Dave says, "Tell me more about bacon." Well, it's always good conversation. This is all suppose that one is stationary, not taking into account if one has to move or flee. That's true. That is true, dude. That might be a good topic for prepping part 3. It could be.
I don't use. I just looked up FIFO racks. I just have Gorilla racks. I don't know what he's talking about. I never heard that term particularly.
It looks like a slanted rack, a shelf system with a slanted rack.
Oh, okay. So it's just a
Like
storage
metal
system.
shelf.
I see.
Very expensive.
Well,
Yeah, I mean,
storage solutions can be expensive, actually.
Absolutely.
Well, like I said, I just got 2 Gorilla racks, and that's good enough for me, at least.
Yeah. I have an under the bed. That's what I have. Let me see here. Learn to use a pressure canner. Now, what is that?
A pressure canner is effectively the things that people were making bombs out of. What they do is they create a intense amount of pressure and conceal things within it. There's a lot of like pressure. It's like a pressure cooker, but it's like a much more powerful version of it.
Yeah, some things you can water bath can with just a pot of boiling water, and it depends on the food. And other things have to be pressure can, like if you do meats and stuff.
Yeah.
The pressure is higher, the temperature goes up higher, and usually it's just a pan that has a lid that can be sealed and locked down, and it's got like a little weight for a pressure valve. So the new ones you can't blow up your house. Like the old pressure cookers, when they go,
if you're looking for one, try to find one from 30 years ago, like a garage sale or a thrift store or something. New ones are garbage. Even the digital ones, they're trash. The old real metal, not that crap Chinese metal. Those canners are fantastic. I work in appliances. People come in all the time wanting old canner parts because you do not want the new ones. They're just, I mean, if you have to, but compared to the old ones, they're junk.
Interesting.
Test your safety valve.
Almost everything is junk compared to the stuff that was made in the
Correct.
40s, 50s, and
50s was
60s. Yeah, but the 50s was the best.
There will never be appliances that are better than the 50s. They lasted forever. They were made of real metal, not this junk metal that we get out of China and overseas now. And they last forever. The best toaster ever made was in the 50s. The best refrigerator ever made was in the 50s.
Well, I have a mixer that was made in 1953, that I found on my mission for the church. Somebody was in an attic where I lived, and the owner just said, "Yeah, you can keep it." So I sent it home, which it didn't cost any more than like $20 at the time, amazingly. I still have that. I also have the toaster my mother got for her marriage. It's like 60 years old. It works fine.
Yep.
Yeah,
This is
that's
the type of thing.
unfortunate.
Like, why is it that we have shit now? Everything's shit.
Well, that's
It's
because they want you to buy it again. Yeah, it's
yes.
Oh, I
Everything.
know. It's like
Planned
redundancy. Yeah,
obsolescence.
planned obsolescence.
Now, there's a couple of the comments in here I would really like your opinion on, guys. Let me get this one real quick. In California, it's illegal to cache rainwater. Why?
It
Yeah,
is.
they have that stupid rule.
They claim because it messes with the water table for downstream because that water
Oh,
flows downstream
horse
into
shit.
It's exactly.
It
It's
is
exactly.
horseshit.
Yes, you can't put a cistern underneath your gutter.
Yeah.
In
So
California. It's illegal.
stupid.
It seems so.
That
Illegal
couple
cache
of gallons that I would have gotten from the rainwater is really going to affect the water table. Get out of here.
Yeah. Illegal to grow gardens in your front yards in some places. They won't want you dependent. That's horrible, dude. But here's the question I want an opinion on. Erodimus says, don't eat army rations. They are designed to make you constipated and will shut down your kidneys and liver.
I don't think MREs are having some is no big deal, but I definitely wouldn't be my preps. They're high in sodium. It's debatable whether or not they are putting additives. You know, some people say like they put saltpeter in the meats to kind of suppress your natural urges, so you don't get horn in the field.
Don't
But they
knock down
used
my
to do that.
erections, military.
Yeah,
Remember?
they absolutely used to do that, and some people say they still have something that they put in them. So, but they're meant to be high calorie, very easy. So I don't think it's bad to have a few around, but he's right. You're not going to want to eat those things for 6 months, 3 months.
Well,
Just a
I
little
don't
bit
have
on
any.
that.
I don't have any MREs. I don't have any. I don't like them.
Yeah, I don't either. I don't
Yeah,
either.
it's interesting. None of you guys mentioned MREs. That's pretty cool.
You know, just a little bit on that FIFO rack. That FIFO stands for first in, first out. So it's a rack that you drop it in the top and it rolls down.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah, it does actually.
I don't know.
So you automatically cycle.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I just never thought about that. All my racks are just flat, and I just put them in there, and you just shove them over every like 4 months, and you're fine.
Now, Dave says, I've seen stories of law enforcement has been going after homesteaders. That's disgusting.
Yeah. Well, they've been kind of doing that before this.
Kat
That's
said,
why I say, that's why I tell people don't put pictures, don't get in forums and stuff online. I don't trust it the way data is being collected, and you don't want to get
that's fair.
tagged, by
That's fair.
some glowy or some spook somewhere that is keeping track of people in the area that are prepped. It should be none of their business, but they're making it their business, and it's troublesome.
Just so you know, he's talking about government spook, not the black peoples. Just so you know.
Oh, wow, Chester.
No racism
Jeez.
at all.
The other thing you have to realize is if shit really, really hits it, the government's going to come and take all your stuff. Period.
Yeah.
They're going to send a SWAT team and take your stuff.
You can count on your sheriff's departments doing that for the good of the community.
Yep.
Yeah.
Happened before. It will happen again. There was a time when it was illegal to own gold up to a certain amount in this country for a reason.
Oh my God, yeah, the gold is something they do not like you to have. Kat says, I'm a panicker. I should never touch a gun. Fair enough. Says, pressure caners are for glass mason jars with metal lids. Much longer shelf life than a hot water bath. Interesting.
Yep.
And some foods have to be I think, isn't it green beans have to be pressure canned?
Yeah, anything with too much water in it.
Yeah, I think tomatoes have to be pressure canned.
Yeah, and anything like most of the time, if you're doing stuff like high sugar content, like a pineapple, if you're somewhere where it has pineapple,
you'd be amazed how many people just know how to do this stuff, like the older people. It
Oh
usually
yeah,
for the parts
my
for
aunts, all my aunts know how to do this shit because they grew up doing it.
they had
Um, yeah, I've done it before. I'd have to get a kind of refresher course because I just do cans right now. But I mean, yeah.
It's very easy to do.
Oh, I know it's not tough. I've done it before.
Sterilize your jars, pack your. No, you have to know. That's important. You have to know what can be done with either method. Anything with animal protein has to be pressure canned.
And one of the things you want to make sure is if you do get jars, make sure you get freezer prepared jars. Otherwise, they will shatter in a freezer.
Interesting.
So
Now,
if you get
I
something you want to freeze and can, which there are some things that it's good to do that with just to preserve the flavor. Make sure you get the right kind of jar, or it will literally explode.
One of the things people might want to know if you are going to do canning of fruit, you do like things like pears or peaches. Make sure you get a syrup to put it in because if you just don't put any sugar at all, you're going to get it out of there and it's going to taste like fucking cardboard.
Yeah.
Just telling you.
sure.
Most
Now,
people don't realize how bad peaches taste.
Yeah.
A lot of people only like peach. No, they're not bad, but compared to what you buy at the store, it's night and day because the peaches
yeah.
are very sugared in the cans.
Yeah, there's a couple questions I have here from the chat, though. I'd like you guys to explain to me if you could. But first, it says, Chester, are you assuming black people can't be in the government? Nope. Chester, you can't say that. Why can't I say that? You don't want any racisms over here?
These sound like questions you need to answer,
No,
Chester.
no. I'm the question I have is this right here, from Mike Dalton. Mike's really into this conversation, by the way. Prepping, big subject. Have a blackout bag. What is that?
Is he saying blackout or bug out?
No, he
Bug
says
out bag, that's what
blackout
I meant.
bag. Tools I get,
When,
med supplies I
when it's
get.
black, I don't know. When it's blackout,
Maybe he meant
it
bug
says
out
blackout. I
bag.
don't know.
Maybe he meant. I know what
I
that
think
is.
I think I'm a bug out bag.
He might have been auto-corrected or something.
Maybe.
I'm assuming
And
it's good
he
with
may
no.
mean the same thing.
I'm assuming
Okay.
he means
Yeah.
one that's really good with no electricity. So you want to have one prepared
Oh,
in case
that
you
Okay.
makes sense. That
have
makes
no
sense.
power.
Yeah. Okay. Curious
Well,
2A
you
says
should have a flashlight batteries, and those should be swapped out pretty regularly in your bug out bag.
that's
You
true.
should definitely have a torch of some sort. And things like if you can have the luxury of doing it, get yourself a little so not acetylene. I'm blanking on the
Propane.
propane tank. There we go.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sure.
And
That's fair.
and then have that, and have a little stove. And those are nice things to have for the 72 hours.
Get them really cheap too. Get a kinetic charger.
Yep.
They're not
Yeah.
expensive. They're super easy. You just shake it and it'll charge up a battery. It's really
Learn
nice
to
to have.
make a wood burning stove. I mean, engine, right? A wood burning engine. They're not hard.
Well, like a wood gas engine.
Yeah, wood gas. Yeah, that's what I was looking for. Yeah, those aren't very hard. I've seen those built before.
No, there's not much to them, but you have to know what you're doing, or you'll probably die.
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, then
Be
look into
careful.
it.
Just
The
be
internet
careful.
is a great place. Curious Tay says, I'm curious what he means by this. I've heard you are supposed to chew the gum to get things moving again. What does he mean? Huh.
I'm not sure what that is.
You mean if you're constipated to chew gum? Is that what he's talking about?
Maybe.
You chew it with your butt.
I don't know.
I don't think that's
I don't
correct
know.
at all.
Yeah. Let's see.
Just do an enema. You'll be all right.
Yeah. Aroma says, up until the 50s, every home in the Appalachians had a smokehouse to preserve meats and can their fruit and veggies. Yep. I grew up with that stuff, dude. I'm not from the Appalachians at all.
Yeah, this
Smokehouse
stuff
is a little different. It's a little
not
harder to do in the
difficult.
suburb.
Yeah. But this stuff isn't difficult to do. It's just that people don't do it, and most people don't know how. You're not going to go out and grab a bunch of pine logs to smoke with, or your food's going to be awful. You have to know some basic things. Same with dehydrating, things like that.
You don't want to smoke with pine. Oh, that would be so bad.
It would be bad. But one of the things they
People
do
smoking with 2x4s,
Oh my God. But one of the really good things here, though, is when you're driving along the mountains here, you'll see these little charcoal huts. built into the side of the mountain, right? And you'll just have the old people make it, and they'll sell it. They'll make a little money off it. But I have such great access to traditional charcoal. I don't mean the Kingsford briquettes. I mean actual charcoal. So that's a really handy thing to have around you as well.
Smell the real
Yeah, and
charcoal.
that's easy to make too.
It
Again,
is.
it's just a process. You have to bury it. You have to know how to get it going. And
Yep. No, that's absolutely. Um, let's see. Eric says, and we can skin a buck. We can run a trout line, and a country boy can
a
survive.
country
That's
boy
right.
can survive.
That's right.
Boy, I'd like to spit some beech nut in that dude's eye.
Oh, goodness gracious. Let's see here. I'm almost caught up. It's surprisingly easy to build a piezo generator, thermoelectric. Set it on your wood stove, and it can charge up your battery bank. Interesting. Hmm. Yeah, he said he means
Yeah, there
gum
are
after the MREs. Yeah.
a lot of things that it right now we are living in just like the golden age of information, and there's so many people willing to put all that out there for free and spend time editing videos and typing this stuff out.
Yeah.
Go take advantage of it.
Yeah. No, that's
If,
fair.
Yeah.
if you really want to learn something real simple that anybody, literally anybody, can do, that will be very helpful, is learn how to pickle. Learn how to make pickled things. I think probably everybody just about likes pickles. You can learn how to pickle, meat, pickle other vegetables besides, cucumbers. Pickles last a long time and they're super nutritious. Um, I think if you can learn how to do that, which is really easy, you can find a million different people online that'll teach it for free on YouTube. Just look it up, how to make pickled whatever you want to do, pickled ham, pickled whatever you want to do. I think if you learn how to do that, you'll be ahead of the curve for most people, and it's something you'll be able to do fairly easily if the rubber hits the road here,
Yeah.
and it'll keep you alive because it's basically a form of long form cooking. It'll last for a very long time.
Yeah. Well, speaking of pickling, because we do need to wrap this up. But speaking of pickling, what do you guys think of the value of alcohol in this conversation?
Extremely valuable.
Hmm. Well,
Knowing
elaborate.
how to brew and distill is a skill too, and it's very easy to brew. And
Yeah.
you can also do things like make vinegar, things like that.
Well, here's a nice thing about. I mean, again, I'm Mormon, so I don't drink. However, alcohol is a great currency. It's also a good fuel. It's also something medicinal. Also, things like beer, you can survive literally on beer and a cup and a little bit of sugar, and you should be fine. People can live on it for quite a while before things go awry. Those are things that people need to know. And also, anything with alcohol usually sterilizes whatever you have in it, so you can drink that. You don't want to drink too much of it, though.
Yeah, that
There
is
you
the
go.
root of things like mead and beer. It was to make the water potable again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the whole reason they did it.
Yeah.
And it's very easy to do naturally. If you've ever seen an apple that has that white powdery stuff on it, or blackberries that have the white powdery stuff on them, that's yeast. It's
Mhm.
natural yeast, and that will kick off your brew.
Oh yeah, it's really easy to
So
do apples. I've seen the creation of apple cider before. That's pretty
yeah,
cool.
it's super easy, and you can do it with a lot of different fruits are obviously the easiest, but grains as well. Um, this is something that you should keep in your little book of how to do things. It's not something that I've thought of actually, but it's actually a great idea.
Hmm. Yeah. Well,
I've
cool.
made cider, I've made blackberry wine and stuff like that.
Ooh,
It's a piece of cake.
very nice.
I'm not much of a drinker, so I very rarely do it. But I have a 3 gallon carboy and a fermenter in my prep stuff in the other room, and it's there if I ever need it, and it's really easy to do.
Yep. All right. Well, And that is 2 hours of prepping. And I think we covered some pretty cool things, actually. Everything from, what foods to get and how to keep your foods, even guns. Very interesting. I think we might want to think about doing even a third one on this if we
I
can
would
find.
say so, and then I think we should do like hygiene and sanitation on the next one.
Yeah,
Maybe.
hygiene and sanitation is good, and we talked about transportation.
Hmm.
Yeah. What do you think about that, Thundero?
Disposing of bodies.
Okay,
Oh my
cool.
goodness,
All right.
yes, disposing of bodies actually is not a bad thing at all in a real bad situation. We're not talking about killing people, but I mean, if people die, you do want to get rid of the body, and you want to do it in such a way that it doesn't infect your own place of where you're living
Sure.
or your water sources or anything
Don't
like
bury
that.
it by the well or by
No,
the stream.
Yes, no,
no.
or just burn it. I mean,
Don't bury it at
that's
all. Yeah.
yeah, just burn it. I mean, and then people are like, we like to have this idea where Geo Chris, we got to put it in the ground, but burning a body is not a bad way to get rid of it, and you can still keep it. You can keep the ashes if you want to have
And
something
if
to hold
you
on
want to
to.
get really,
Delicious.
if you want to get really after you've done that, the bones will be brittle. You can make good quality bone meal with it. So, and it
Okay.
works.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, well,
With that,
we could next time we can talk about some stuff though, like making soap. Making soap is easy,
it
Yeah.
is just need a little.
extremely easy.
Yep.
Some
Fight
things
Club
like
taught us
that.
that. That's right.
Making
And
paper is easy. You just have to know, you know how to know how to make potash and a few
Yeah.
things
Yeah.
like that. And
I've
yes,
made paper before here in Japan. They have
I
a
have
type of
too.
paper
Yeah.
called
Paper,
washi. Yeah.
soap, candles, stuff like that is all really
Yeah.
handy stuff to know.
All right. Well, next week we're gonna have. I will title it "Wipe Your Butt." TFT. So that will be a good conversation. I think it's apropos for what's going on, and it's fun conversation. The chat seemed to enjoy it as well. All right, I'm going to let each one of these guys give their closing comments. Who wants to do Namaste today?
Um,
I could do one.
All right, model, sweet. All right, Slick. So give your closing comments, sir.
just everybody out there, stay safe, stay healthy, practice common sense, don't be crazy. I think that's, just treat your fellow man as you want to be treated, but also keep an eye on your back. I'm Slick Jimmy. You can find me at Slick Jimmy Speaks on YouTube. I do the Cheesecake Factory, Cheesecake Challenge, which I'm going to do tomorrow night at 9 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. You can also find me at Slick Jimmy Love on Twitter, and go look up my comic book, which is still in demand for a short little while longer. That's on Indiegogo. Little Girl Lethal.
Sweet. Thundero.
Um, I have nothing much to say really. The good news is it is Easter. At the end of the day, it's still Easter. Easter still came. Easter still went. It's not going anywhere. I think everything's gonna be fine here in the summertime. I think things will start to get back to normal a little bit from people who care about normalcy anyway. But yeah, other than that, I will see you guys probably tomorrow.
Sweet. And one thing I think is really interesting before I give it over to Model, talking about Easter, and I've been paying very close attention to the Trump here, as everyone else has. But of course, my eyes are open. I don't know if this is a weird statement. It's not something I would have expected to say, but I'm kind of thinking that Trump might be the actually most religious president we've had in a very long time. I didn't ever expect to think that or say that. It didn't come at me as being that kind of person, but I think he's legitimately religious. And you can't say that about most of our presidents. So, but nevertheless, I thought he gave a really nice Easter speech. If you guys want to see that, doesn't mean nothing here and there, I guess. I just, it's surprising. Anyway, go ahead, model.
All right, Chester. Well, today's message is about being nicer to people. I'm a guy who likes to spread rumors that you created Denali in a lab, and
Hmm.
I'm a guy that likes to make fun of Shabby because he takes pictures of himself lifting heavy objects for other men to look at.
Uh-huh.
I'm a guy that likes to give Cat a hard time for any of 3 dozen different things, but try to be nicer to people online. I don't know if it's just Twitter, but I think it's all of it. I think it's Facebook. People are really, really being atrocious to one another.
Yeah.
And it's part of it's getting worse with this isolation. It's getting worse with people's frustrations with their jobs. Maybe they're laid off, and things could get harder. A lot of these
Yeah.
governors and these press conferences, they're talking about we're not even at the peak yet. So just maybe take a break from being online if you need to, if it's getting to be too much.
That's fair. Namaste. And do keep in mind, Kat has the cutest hands ever.
She's not Asian, Chester.
Shut up. All right. All right, guys. Thank you very much. And we'll check you out tomorrow. Keep in mind that tomorrow's the 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time show. And we'll try to talk about comic book stuff and see what's happening because our world is certainly upside down. That's for damn sure. All right, guys. Later.
Hasta luego.
Yeah, and don't talk now during the outro. Chester doesn't like that.